The Forbidden Love. In the land of Mampon, Prince Owahene was a warrior and a scholar. His father, Obrimpon III, ruled with wisdom and strength, but the kingdom had long been at odds with its neighbor, the kingdom of Asokore, ruled by the fierce and unyielding King Bwedu II. For years, an unresolved land dispute festered between the two kingdoms. A fertile stretch of land, known as the Green Valley, lay between them. Each king claimed rightful ownership, and neither was willing to compromise. War and its tensions had always loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. One day, during a diplomatic journey to the far reaches of Mampong, Owahene found himself lost in the thick forest that bordered Asokore. He had set out alone in search of an ancient shrine said to hold the blessings of the gods, but the dense trees and unfamiliar paths led him astray. Just as he was beginning to despair, he stumbled upon a small, clear lake hidden within the forest. There, on the other side of the lake, was a young lady swimming. He had never seen such beauty. Her skin glowed in the golden sunset, her eyes were like sparkling pearls, and her braided hair adorned with gold beads shimmered in the light. She was surrounded by 4 of her maidservants. Owahene stepped forward, and the woman turned sharply. She got out of the water, and in the middle of a human circle made by her maidservants, she dressed up. Afterwards, she came out to inquire. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice both weary and commanding. "I am Owahene, Prince of Mampong," he answered with a bow. "I mean no harm. I have lost my way." The woman's eyes widened slightly, but she quickly masked her surprise. "I am Ohenewaa," she said, "daughter of King Bwedu of Asokore." Immediately, the prince pulled out his sword, about to strike because he had seen his enemy. But her beauty struck him once again, and he withdrew his sword. Tension filled the air. "You have no right to be here, Prince of Mampong," she said coldly. Ohenewaa studied him for a long moment, then pointed towards the path leading back to Mampong. "Leave before someone sees you." Owahene hesitated before turning away, but as he did, something unfamiliar tugged at their hearts. It was a feeling they could not name. From that night onward, neither Owahene nor Ohenewaa could sleep in peace. Owahene found himself lost in thoughts. He had seen countless beautiful women in his life, but Ohenewaa was different. She carried herself with the pride of a warrior and the grace of a queen. Ohenewaa, on the other side, could not understand why she felt restless. She had been raised to despise the Mampong people, yet she could not erase the image of Owahene from her mind. His presence lingered like a shadow, unsettling and persistent. And yet, they both knew they could not allow themselves to fall for one another. To do so would be to betray their fathers, their people, and their duty. They buried their feelings beneath layers of self-control, but the more they tried to suppress them, the stronger the longing became. Weeks passed. One dusk, Ohenewaa went to the same lake to clear her mind. As she knelt by the water, she felt a presence behind her. Owahene was kneeling behind her. For a moment, silence hung between them. "I see I'm not the only one who comes here often," Owahene said. Ohenewaa exhaled. "I should leave." But she didn't. Neither of them moved. The hostility they had once felt was weaker now. They spoke not as rivals, but as two people burdened by the same fate. One meeting led to another. Slowly, resentment softened into understanding. Hatred melted into curiosity, and then curiosity turned into love. Their secret meetings continued until one fateful day when a spy reported their affair to King Bwedu, the king of Asokore. Furious King Bwedu sent a message to Obrimpon, warning him to control his son and keep him away from his daughter. "If your son does not stop this madness," the message read, I will be forced to take action. Obremponsapon, though angered by the news, dismissed it as youthful foolishness. He warned Owahene, but the prince said nothing. But Owahene could not turn away from Ohenewaa. On the third occasion, when they still did not stop seeing each other, Kimbwedu himself wrote to Mampong. He entered the palace with a grave warning. "This is the last time I will say this, Mampong," he declared, his voice echoing through the palace hall. "If your son does not stay away from my daughter, I will consider this as an act of war." Owahene looked at his father. Then at Kimbwedu, he took a deep breath and said, "If war is what comes from love, then let it come. But know this, I will not turn away from Ohenewaa." Kimbwedu's face twisted with rage, but beneath it was something else, fear. Fear that his daughter loved this man as much as he feared she did. Without another word, he turned and left, but everyone knew that war was now at their doorstep. Ohenewaa was curfewed and prevented from going out since that day. The prince would visit their usual meeting spots for days, but the princess was nowhere to be found. This got him worried and sad. One night, Ohenewaa escaped with the help of one of her maidservants and met Owahene at the lake. "We have tried to resist this," Ohenewaa whispered. "We have denied ourselves happiness for the sake of our fathers, but I can fight it no longer." Owahene took her hands. "Come with me," Owahene pleaded, gripping her hands. "We'll run away. We'll find a place where no kingdom rules over us." Ohenewaa was a bit hesitant, knowing that leaving would mean there would be no heir to the throne of her father. Yet still, she finally yielded. Owahene and Ohenewaa fled their kingdoms, leaving behind the only lives they had ever known. By the morning, the villagers were already gossiping about the escape of the princess and the prince. When news reached both kings, they sent their soldiers to search for them. During their search, one clash between the two kingdoms led to another. They fought and searched, but could not find the two lovers. The enmity between the two kingdoms heightened. As a result, a great wall was built to clearly set the boundaries between the two kingdoms, leaving the green valley in the middle with no one visiting it for fear of being killed by an enemy. Their fathers were left in shock. Obremponsapon and Kimbwedu, though proud and stubborn, felt the deep sorrow of their loss. The prince and princess traveled beyond the lands of Mampong and Asokore until they reached a distant land, a place untouched by war, unknown to their people. In a new land, they built a simple life, no longer bound by the expectations of their fathers or the weight of their rivalry. Kimbwedu waited for the return of her daughter, but she didn't. He began to feel the sting of regret. He had no son. Ohenewaa was his only child, his greatest pride, and yet he had let her slip away. The two lovers lived happily. Ohenewaa got pregnant and bore a son. After years of escape and living in a foreign land, Ohenewaa and Owahene made a bold decision that they would return home, each to their roots. They had left as fugitives, but now they were coming back as parents, with a son who carried the blood of both kingdoms. On the day of his arrival, the palace of Mampong was filled with whispers. As soon as the guards recognized him, they hurriedly sent a message to the king. Obremponsapon's eyes were unreadable as he took in the sight of his son. The weight of their past hung in the air. "I have returned," Owahene said simply. "You abandoned your duty," his father finally spoke. "You left your people for the daughter of our enemy." Owahene met his father's gaze. I left because duty was not more important than my heart. But I have returned, not as a lost son, but as a father. The palace hall fell silent. Then, stepping forward, Owahene revealed a small boy at his side, his son, Ohenenana. He is your grandson, father, Owahene said, a child who carries the blood of both Mampong and Asokore. Obrimpong Sapon looked at the boy and something softened his expression. This was his grandson, his blood, his future. That night, a grand feast was held in honor of Owahene's return. During the meal, Obrimpong Sapon said nothing for a long time, but in his heart he knew the truth. If Owahene and Ohenewaa had a child, this bond could never be broken. For the first time, the king felt the weight of the past lift from his shoulders. News of their return continued to spread in the villages. In the land of Asokore, a different kind of tension filled the air. Princess Ohenewaa, once the pride of her father, had returned after years of absence. King Buedu sat on his throne, his face incomprehensible as he watched his daughter walk into the palace. "Why have you come back?" he asked, his voice laced with restrained emotion. "I have returned because I never stopped being your daughter," Ohenewaa said. Later, Owahene came to the Asokore palace with their son. The guards tried to resist him, but the king ordered them otherwise. As they approached the throne of King Buedu, Ohenewaa said to his father, "Father," she paused, trembling, "this is your grandson. His name is Ohenenana." King Buedu stiffened. For a long time, he only stared at the little boy. He had no son, but now in his hands was a grandson, a prince of his bloodline. Tears welled up in Ohenewea's eyes. She had expected anger, perhaps even rejection. But in her father's expression, she saw acceptance, love, and hope. With this, a historic event was arranged and the two kings would meet face to face, not as enemies, but as grandfathers. At Asokore Palace, Obrimpong Sapon paid a historic visit to the kingdom of Asokore to sign a peace treaty and also ask Ohenewea's hand in marriage for his son, Owahene. Obrimpong Sapon was the first to speak. "We have fought over this land for years, but today we fight no longer." King Buedu nodded, looking at his grandchild. "This child is a symbol of unity. Our kingdoms will no longer wage war against each other." And in that moment, peace was born between Mampong and Asokore. The two lovers could now live happily as lovers in their own kingdom. To cement this unity, Owahene and Ohenewaa were married in a grand ceremony recognized by both kingdoms. For the first time in history, the people of Mampong and Asokore feasted together. They danced to traditional music, both Owahene and Ohenewaa, and so happiness and peace reigned forever in the land of Asokore and Mampong. Years passed, and under the leadership of both kingdoms, they conquered lands together. When Obrimpong Sapon and King Buedu passed away, Mampong and Asokore merged into one great kingdom, a land of strength, wisdom, and peace. Owahene became the king, while Ohenewaa became the queen mother of the land. And their son, Ohenenana, was raised to inherit a kingdom built on love and great wealth. And so, happiness and peace reigned forever in the land of Asokore and Mampong.